My name is Maurice Johnson. I am 32 years old, a black American man living in Chicago, and I was sitting on our sectional couch one Thursday evening scrolling through apartment listings on my laptop when my fiancée, Jasmine Reed, walked into the living room with that look. Not angry, not sad, just intensely focused. I've been thinking about something huge and you're not going to like it look. We had been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. The wedding date was set for late summer. The venue deposit was paid. The caterer was booked. Our families had started shopping for outfits, and we had a spreadsheet full of tasks slowly turning green. Everything felt like it was moving forward in a straight, solid line. I was comparing 2-bedroom layouts, imagining a nursery someday, when Jasmine stopped in the doorway, arms folded, shoulders squared like she was bracing herself for impact. "Maurice, we need to have a serious conversation about our relationship structure," Jasmine said. Her voice was calm, but there was a tightness there, like she had rehearsed the sentence in her head 10 times. I looked up from my laptop, blinking as the future I had been silently planning flickered and paused. "Okay," I said slowly. "What is going on?" Instead of sitting next to me on the couch the way she usually did, she walked around and sat in the armchair across from me, putting actual furniture between us. That small choice made my stomach drop. She rested her hands on her knees, took a deep breath, and looked me directly in the eyes. "I have been doing a lot of self-discovery work lately," she said. "Reading, learning, watching educational content, listening to podcasts, and I need to tell you something important about who I am." My body went cold. Those words never precede something simple like, "I want to paint the kitchen," or "let's get a dog." They are reserved for things that split a life into before and after. Jasmine swallowed, like the next sentence had weight. "I am polyamorous," she said. The word hung in the air between us, heavier than it had any right to be. For a moment, all I could hear was our upstairs neighbor's television muffled through the ceiling and the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. I closed my laptop gently and set it on the coffee table. "Polyamorous," I repeated. "You want to open the relationship?" Jasmine shook her head. "It is not just about opening it. I want us to practice ethical polyamory. Multiple committed relationships that coexist. It is actually a really healthy and emotionally evolved way to love when you understand it properly." I stared at her face, trying to reconcile the woman who had cried happy tears when I proposed under the big oak tree in her parents' backyard with the woman now telling me she wanted to date other people while marrying me. "This is coming out of nowhere for me," I said. "Where is this coming from?" Jasmine's back straightened defensively. "It is not coming from anywhere," she replied. "This is who I have always been. I just did not have the framework to understand it before. I did not have the language." I frowned. "Jasmine, we have been together for 3 years talking about marriage, children, and growing old together. You have never once mentioned anything like this." She pressed her lips together. "Because society programs us to suppress these parts of ourselves," she said. "Monogamy is literally a patriarchal construct created to control women and limit human connection. I have been learning so much about kitchen table polyamory and relationship anarchy and—" "Hold on," I interrupted, lifting a hand. "Slow down for a second." My heart was pounding, but strangely, my voice was steady. There is a point in any crisis when your brain switches into a quiet, focus mode, and I could feel myself sliding into it. "This is a massive change," I said carefully. "You were talking about fundamentally changing what our entire relationship is." Jasmine shook her head more emphatically this time. "It is not changing anything," she insisted. "It is expanding it. We would still be together. We would still love each other. There would just be more love in our lives. No one person can meet all of another person's needs anyway, Maurice. That is not realistic." I nodded slowly. "You are right that one person cannot meet every need," I said. "That is what friends are for. Family, community, hobbies. But romantically and sexually, I am monogamous. That is not something I am willing to change." Her expression shifted from hopeful to offended in an instant. "You will not even consider it," Jasmine said. "That is pretty closed-minded." I felt my jaw tighten, but kept my tone even. "It is not closed-minded to know what I want in a relationship," I said. "I am not monogamous by default because I have never questioned it. It is what I actively choose." She crossed her arms. "But how do you know if you have never tried polyamory?" Jasmine asked. You might love it if you gave it a chance. I looked at her, incredulous. How do you know you are polyamorous if you have never actually practiced it? I asked. We have been monogamous for 3 years. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to argue that point. Then she stood up and began pacing back and forth across the rug. This is exactly the resistance I was afraid of, she said. You are trying to control how I love people. Saying I need monogamy is not controlling you, I replied. It is stating what I need in order to be in this relationship. You can love however you want, Jasmine. You are free to structure your relationships any way you choose. But I get to decide what kind of relationship I will be in. She stopped pacing and turned to face me. So you are just shutting this down, she said. You will not even think about it. I spread my hands. Think about what? I asked. You are asking me to fundamentally change my relationship values. That is not a small request. That is not the same as choosing a different paint color or deciding how many children we might want someday. Jasmine grabbed her phone from the coffee table and scrolled quickly. Look, she said, turning the screen toward me. I follow these polyamory educators on TikTok and Instagram. They talk about how if your partner refuses to even consider ethical non-monogamy, that is a red flag. It means they do not actually care about your happiness or growth. I stood up now too, my calm starting to crack. Or, I said, it means we are incompatible in a really fundamental way. We are not incompatible, Jasmine snapped. We are perfect together. You just need to evolve past outdated relationship structures. I let out a breath through my nose. I do not think monogamy is outdated, I said. It works for millions of people. It works for me. The room went quiet for a few seconds. Jasmine looked down at her phone, then back up at me, her eyes shining. I cannot be monogamous anymore, she said quietly. I need this to be happy. My chest hurt. Okay, I said, because I did not know what else to say. Her eyebrows pulled together. That is all you have to say? Jasmine demanded. What do you want me to say? I replied. You are telling me you need something I cannot give you. That hurts for both of us, but it is still the truth. So you are choosing monogamy over me, she said. Over 3 years together. That sentence hit like a punch, but I stayed standing. You are choosing polyamory over me, I answered. It is the same thing, Jasmine. No, it is not the same, she insisted. I'm asking you to grow with me. You're just being rigid and refusing to change. I shook my head. Asking someone to change their core relationship needs is not growth, I said. It is incompatibility. Her voice rose. If you actually loved me, you would at least try, she said. My own voice sharpened in response. If you actually loved me, you would not ask me to, I replied. We just stared at each other, both breathing hard. It felt like I could see the moment our engagement cracked down the middle, everything we had planned splitting apart in slow motion. Finally, Jasmine spoke, her voice flat. Then I guess we are done, she said. I'm not going to suppress who I am for anyone. I swallowed. I'm not asking you to suppress anything, I said quietly. I'm just saying I cannot be in that kind of relationship. Fine, she replied. Then it is over. She turned and walked down the hallway to the bedroom. I heard drawers opening, the closet sliding along its track. I sat back down on the couch, my body suddenly heavy, my mind strangely numbed. 20 minutes earlier, I had been looking at apartments picturing where we would put a dining table for holiday meals. Now my engagement was over because of a word I had never heard her use about herself until tonight. Jasmine came back out with an overnight bag slung over her shoulder. She seemed lighter, almost relieved, like she had already emotionally stepped out of the relationship. I will stay at Crystal's place tonight, Jasmine said, referring to her best friend from college. We can figure out the apartment and everything else later. Sure, I said dully. Obviously the wedding is canceled, she added. I will call my parents tomorrow. Okay, I replied. She grabbed her keys and moved toward the door, then paused and looked back at me. You know, she said, this really shows who you are. I thought you were different. I thought you were more emotionally evolved. I did not trust myself to speak, so I did not say anything. She opened the door, stepped into the hallway, and closed it behind her. The silence that followed was thick. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the blank television screen, listening to the quiet hum of the building. At some point, my phone buzzed in my pocket, breaking through the fog. It was my best friend, Corey Miller, texting to ask if I had seen the new basketball documentary that had just dropped. Instead of answering his question, I called him. He picked up on the second ring. Hey man, what is up? Corey asked. I cleared my throat. Jasmine just broke up with me, I said. There was a sharp inhale on the other end. What? Are you serious? He asked. What happened? I told him everything, starting from the moment she walked in with that look. I described the TikTok educators, the phrases like ethical polyamory and relationship anarchy, the accusation that I was closed-minded, the ultimatum hanging in the air like a trap. Corey was quiet for a long moment when I finished. So, she got into polyamory from social media, he said slowly, and ended your engagement over it? Basically, yes, I said. How are you holding up? He asked. I leaned my head back against the couch. Honestly, I have no idea yet, I admitted. It feels like being in a car accident where you are not sure which part of you is hurt. Corey exhaled. I am sorry, man, he said. I know you loved her. You were really serious about this marriage. I nodded, even though he could not see me. I was looking at apartments for us right before she said it. I said, now I am thinking about how we're going to split the dishes. Corey was quiet again, then said, do you want me to come over? I thought about having another person in the apartment, about the possibility of bursting into tears the second I saw him. Not tonight, I said. I need to sit with this a little, or I'm going to push it all away and pretend I'm fine. Okay, he said softly. I respect that, but I'm serious, Maurice. You're not alone. Call me anytime, even if it is 3 in the morning. I slept badly, tossing between anger and grief and an odd sense of relief that at least I knew where we stood. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Jasmine. Hey, can we talk? She wrote. I think we both got too emotional last night. I stared at the screen for a minute, feeling my chest tighten, then typed, sure. What do you want to talk about? She replied almost immediately. I do not think we need to break up, she wrote. We just need better communication. I rubbed my forehead. About what? I typed. You want polyamory, I want monogamy. That is not a communication issue. That is a difference in what we fundamentally want. After a pause, she sent another message. But maybe we can compromise, Jasmine wrote. Like we could start slow. You would know about my other partners, but you would not have to meet them right away. I read that 3 times. That is not a compromise, I replied. That is just you being polyamorous while I remain monogamous, and am expected to be comfortable with it. A moment later, 3 dots appeared, then her message popped up. You are being really unreasonable right now, Jasmine wrote. How is knowing what I want unreasonable? I asked. She responded. My therapist said you are showing controlling behaviors by refusing to explore my needs. I stared at that line, feeling a flash of irritation. Did your therapist actually say those exact words? I typed back, or did you tell her a version of what happened? And that is how you interpreted it? Same thing, she wrote. It is really not, I answered. A few seconds later, my phone started ringing. I watched her name light up the screen and let it go to voicemail. She called again. I let it ring twice, then sighed and answered. Why are you avoiding me? Jasmine demanded as soon as I said hello. I'm not avoiding you, I replied. I am processing the fact that you ended our relationship last night. That is why we need to talk, she said. I have been thinking, and I have been thinking too. I cut in gently, and I keep coming back to the same thing. We want fundamentally different kinds of relationships. That is not something we can negotiate away. Yes, we can, she insisted. If you would just open your mind even a little. My mind is open, I said. It is open to a monogamous relationship with someone who actually wants that too. She let out an exasperated noise. Oh my God, you are so brainwashed by Disney movies and romance novels, Jasmine said. You have this idea that one person is supposed to be your everything forever. That is not realistic. I felt my patience fray. And you're being influenced by TikTok content creators who get paid by engagement, I said. People who do not know you. That is not fair, she replied quickly. Neither is asking me to change everything about how I do relationships because you spent a few weeks on social media, I said. It was not just social media, Jasmine argued. I have been reading books, following actual researchers. For how long? I asked quietly. There was a pause. How long have you been researching polyamory? I repeated. Finally, she said, about a month and a half. I cannot help it. A short, humorless laugh escaped me. 6 weeks, I said. We have been together 3 years, planning a marriage. And 6 weeks of polyamory content suddenly means you cannot be monogamous anymore. Stop mocking me, she snapped. I am not mocking you, I replied. I am pointing out that this seems very sudden. It feels like you're caught up in the excitement of something new, not uncovering a core identity you have always had. You do not get to tell me who I am, Jasmine said. You are absolutely right, I replied. But I get to decide whether who you are is compatible with who I am. And it is not. There was a beat of silence. Then she hung up. Seconds later, my phone buzzed with another text. I want my things from the apartment this weekend, she wrote. Okay, I replied. Saturday works. Fine, she wrote back. After that, there was silence. I went to work, moving through the day like I was underwater. On my lunch break, I found myself scrolling through our text thread from earlier months, through photos of us on the lakefront, at barbecues with friends, at her cousin's wedding in Atlanta. There we were, dressed up and smiling, my arm around her waist, her head on my shoulder. I studied my own face in those pictures, trying to see if there had been any clue that the ground could shift like this. Saturday arrived faster than I wanted. I woke up early, made coffee, and started gathering Jasmine's things into boxes. Her books, her framed photos with Crystal, her college sweatshirts, the stack of journals she kept on her nightstand. I paused over a photo of us from our first trip together, a long weekend in New Orleans, then carefully set it face down in the box. By the time the buzzer rang, I had labeled 5 boxes with her name in thick black marker and lined them up in the living room. I buzzed them in. A moment later, the door opened and Jasmine's mother, Angela Reed, stepped in first, followed by Jasmine and Crystal. Seeing all 3 of them together felt like facing a panel of judges. Angela's face immediately tightened when she saw me. I cannot believe you are doing this to her, Angela said, shaking her head. Hello, Ms. Reed, I said quietly. Good to see you too. She walked deeper into the room, gesturing with one hand. She comes to you with her authentic feelings, trying to grow and be honest. And you just slammed the door in her face, Angela said. I kept my voice calm. She told me she wants to date multiple people, I said. I want monogamy. Those things are not compatible. Angela crossed her arms. Marriage is about compromise, she said. We're not married yet, I replied. And some things are not compromisable. Crystal jumped in then, her expression full of disdain. Do you even know that polyamorous couples actually have lower divorce rates? Crystal said, it is scientifically proven to be healthier. I blinked at her. If that is true, then all the people who want that should date each other, I said. Jasmine walked past us without meeting my eyes and began checking the labels on the boxes. Is everything here? Jasmine asked quietly. Everything I could find, I answered. If I missed something, let me know and I will look again. Angela was not done. She pointed at me like she was delivering a closing argument. You realize you're throwing away a beautiful relationship because you are too insecure to share, she said. I shook my head. I'm not insecure, I said. I am monogamous. Those are not the same thing. They are exactly the same thing, Angela replied. You were threatened by the idea of her with another man. I let out a slow breath. Yes, I said. That is literally what monogamy is. Being exclusive. That is the entire point. Jasmine finally spoke, her voice strained. Can we not do this here? She asked. I just want to get my things and go. But Crystal could not resist. You are really going to throw away a whole wedding over this? Crystal asked me. She ended it. I replied. I just did not beg her to stay by agreeing to something that would make me miserable. Because you do not actually love her, Crystal said. I looked at Jasmine. Is that what you think? I asked. She chewed on her lower lip, avoiding my eyes. I think if you love me enough, you at least try, Jasmine said. The words landed like a weight. And I think if you love me enough, you would not ask me to, I replied. Angela scoffed loudly. Selfish, she muttered. Absolutely selfish. They carried the boxes down in 3 trips. Each time the door closed behind them, the apartment felt a little emptier. On the 3rd trip, Jasmine lingered near the door, holding the last box. You were really okay with this? She asked. Just throwing away 3 years. No, I said honestly. I'm not okay with it at all. But I'm also not going to pretend to be someone I am not just to keep the peace. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. So polyamory would make you that miserable? She asked. Yes, I said without hesitation. It would. Would monogamy make you that miserable? I asked in return. She hesitated, looking down at the floor. I do not think I can do it anymore, she said finally. Not after learning what I have learned. I nodded once. Then yes, I said quietly. We are done. She blinked hard, turned, and left. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Crystal. You are going to regret this so much. She is amazing, and you are too foolish to see it. I stared at the message for a moment, then blocked Crystal's number without responding. Not long after, another message appeared, this one from Jasmine. Just so you know, I already have 2 people who want to date me, she wrote. Already. I sat there on the couch, staring at the words, wondering what response she expected. Good luck with everything, I typed. That is it, she replied. That is all you have to say. I looked at the blue bubble, feeling both sad and oddly numb. What do you want me to say? I wrote back. I want you to fight for us, she responded. By becoming someone I am not. I asked. That is not fighting for us. That is erasing me. There was no reply after that. A few days later, the practical consequences of everything started to land. The wedding venue called to ask if we were still moving forward. When I said no, the woman on the phone reminded me that the $3,000 deposit was non-refundable. My stomach sank. The photographer emailed next, saying she was sorry to hear the news, but that our $800 deposit was also non-refundable per our contract. The caterer, thankfully, was more flexible and offered to refund half of our $1,200 deposit since we were canceling months in advance. I added up the numbers on my kitchen table with a scratch pad. $1,500 owed to the venue, $400 kept by the caterer, $800 to the photographer. $2,700 gone, split between us. I texted Jasmine. We need to split the money we are losing on wedding cancellations. I wrote. Why should I have to pay anything? She replied almost immediately. You were the one who refused to compromise. I closed my eyes for a moment, then called her. She picked up on the second ring. You were the one who ended the relationship, I said calmly. Because you gave me an ultimatum, polyamory or breakup. I chose breakup. That is not me refusing to compromise. That is me respecting what you said you needed. You could have just tried it, Jasmine said. Tried something I fundamentally do not want. I asked, how is that reasonable? So, I am supposed to pay thousands of dollars because you are closed-minded, she replied. You are supposed to pay for half of the deposits we both agreed to when we planned this wedding, I said. We signed contracts. That is how it works. She sighed. I do not have that money right now. Jasmine said. I had to put down deposits on a new apartment. Then we figure out a payment plan. I said, but I'm not going to absorb all of these costs alone when we made those commitments together. This is exactly why we broke up, Jasmine said sharply. You care more about money and logistics than you do about actual feelings. My jaw clenched. My feelings are hurt too, I said, but that does not make the invoices disappear. We are both adults. We both agreed to this wedding. There was a pause. Then she said, figure it out yourself, and hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, then forwarded her copies of the cancellation emails and sent her a payment request through a money transfer app for her half. She ignored it. A few days later, my mother, Patricia Johnson, called. Hi, honey, she said. I heard about the breakup. Are you doing all right? I took a deep breath. I'm hanging in there, Mom, I said. Angela called me. My mother added. My stomach tightened. What did she say? I asked. She said you broke Jasmine's heart by being controlling and refusing to let her live authentically, or something along those lines, my mother said dryly. I closed my eyes. That is not what happened, I said softly. I know that, my mother replied. I told Angela that if Jasmine wanted to date multiple people, she should have figured that out before accepting a ring from you. She did not appreciate that comment. Despite everything, I smiled a little. Thank you, Mom, I said. But really, how are you? She asked gently. 3 years is a long time. I stared at the ceiling. I do not know, I said. It is strange. I am sad it is over, but I also feel like I avoided something much worse down the line. That is probably true, my mother said. You were allowed to feel both sad and relieved. After we hung up, I did feel slightly better, knowing someone understood. That afternoon, the mail arrived. Among the usual bills and coupons was a stiff, cream-colored envelope addressed to us both. I opened it and found the sample wedding invitations we had ordered a month earlier. Elegant script letters read, together with their families, Maurice Johnson and Jasmine Reed joyfully invite you. I stared at our names printed together, at the carefully chosen font, and then quietly dropped the entire bundle into the recycling bin. That night, my phone buzzed again. "I'm seeing someone now," Jasmine texted. "Seriously. His name is Tyrone. Thought you should know." It had been barely 2 weeks since the breakup. I sat there, thumb hovering over the screen, then typed "okay." "That is all you have to say," she wrote. "Congratulations," I replied. "I want you to care," she wrote back. "I do care," I answered. "I care that you seem totally fine 2 weeks after ending a 3-year relationship. It makes me wonder if this polyamory situation was really about already having someone waiting." "How dare you," she replied. "Tyrone and I connected after the breakup." "Sure," I typed. "That is what you say." "You were such a jerk," she wrote. "You texted me to announce that you were dating someone." I replied. "What kind of response were you expecting?" She did not answer. An hour later, I saw a notification from a social media app. Against my better judgment, I opened it and saw Jasmine's new post, a photo of her sitting close to a tall black man with his arm around her shoulders. The caption read, "When someone finally gets you. New beginnings." I stared at it for a few seconds, felt a sharp twist in my chest, then muted her on every platform. I should have done it earlier. Weeks passed. I went back to work, met Corey for lunch more often, and started seeing a therapist myself to sort through the mess of emotions. My therapist, a calm black woman named Dr. Wilson, listened carefully as I recounted everything. "It sounds like you were very clear about your boundaries," she said one afternoon. "And it sounds like Jasmine was very clear about hers. That does not mean either of you is a villain. It means the relationship ended because you wanted different things." "It still hurts," I admitted. "Of course it does," Dr. Wilson said. "An engagement is not a small thing to lose. But being honest now may have saved you from much deeper pain later." I left her office that day, feeling like I had room to breathe for the first time in weeks. I started cooking actual meals instead of eating takeout every night, rearranged the furniture in the living room, and donated a few items that carried too much emotional weight. Then one afternoon, months after the initial conversation, I saw that Jasmine had made a new social media post. It popped up because a mutual friend had commented on it. The caption was vague, but pointed. "Some people say they understand polyamory, but when it is real, they cannot handle it." The comments offered support and sympathy. A few scrolls later, I realized that Tyrone was nowhere to be seen on her account anymore. I shrugged and closed the app. That evening, my phone buzzed. "Hey," Jasmine texted. "Can we meet for coffee?" My first instinct was to ignore it, but my thumb moved almost on its own. "Why?" I wrote. "I just want to talk," she replied. "Please." I stared at the word please, remembered the way she used to look at me when we woke up on lazy Sunday mornings, and against my better judgment, I typed, "Fine. When?" We agreed to meet at a coffee shop in the neighborhood we used to walk through on weekends. Neutral ground. When I arrived, Jasmine was already there at a small table by the window, hands wrapped tightly around a ceramic mug. She looked tired in a way I had not seen before, her eyes framed by dark circles, her usually perfectly styled hair pulled back into a simple bun. "Thank you for meeting me," she said as I sat down. "What is going on, Jasmine?" I asked. She took a breath, then another. "I have been doing a lot of thinking about us," she said. "About what happened?" I nodded once. "All right," I said. "And?" She looked down at her hands. "I think maybe I was too hasty about the whole polyamory thing," Jasmine admitted. For a second, I could not tell if I had heard her correctly. "Excuse me?" I asked. "I still think I am polyamorous," Jasmine said quickly. "I still feel that way, but I think maybe we could have figured something out. Some kind of compromise." I shook my head slowly. "We already talked about this," I said. "There is no real compromise between polyamory and monogamy. Either we are exclusive or we are not." "What if we did something like a do not ask, do not tell arrangement?" she suggested. "I would do my thing, you would do yours, and we would stay together. We would not talk about the details." I stared at her. "That is still polyamory, Jasmine," I said, "and I would still be miserable." "You do not know that," she said. "Yes, I do," I replied, "because I know myself. This is not new information for me. I have always known I wanted a monogamous relationship." Her eyes filled with tears. "I miss you," Jasmine said. "I miss what we had. I miss coming home to you, cooking together, going to my parents' house as a couple. I miss those things too," I said. But the version of you who wanted all of that also wanted monogamy. This version of you does not. She reached for a napkin, wiped her eyes, and said, I could try. We could go to couples therapy. We could talk about what polyamory might look like for us and find a middle ground. I shook my head. You already gave me an ultimatum, I said quietly. You said, accept polyamory or we are done. I chose done. You do not get to take that back now that Tyrone is out of the picture. She flinched. This is not about Tyrone, Jasmine said. Is it not? I asked gently. You seemed perfectly at peace with our breakup when you had someone new who finally got you. Now that he is gone, suddenly you want to talk about compromise. She sniffed. That is not fair, she said. Neither was ending an engagement over something you started learning about 6 weeks before. I replied. Jasmine stared at the table, her shoulders shaking slightly. I made a mistake, okay, she said. I am admitting that. What mistake? I asked. Wanting to be polyamorous, or giving me an ultimatum? She hesitated. Both, she said finally. I exhaled. Jasmine, you cannot just erase what happened, I said. You told me I was not enough for you. You told me you needed multiple partners to be happy. You said monogamy was a patriarchal construct. Those words do not disappear, just because you regret how quickly you said them. People change, she whispered. People realize they made mistakes. In 6 weeks, you changed your entire identity one way, I said. Now, in another few months, you are asking to change it again. Do you see why I might not feel secure building a marriage on that? She looked up, eyes red. So that is it, she asked. You are just going to give up on us. This is not about giving up, I said softly. It is about accepting reality. I think you got caught up in something. Some algorithm fed you content that made you question everything we had, and you followed it. Maybe there's truth in there for you. Maybe you really are polyamorous, and you will thrive in that kind of structure. But you do not get to use me as a backup plan while you figure it out. That is not what this is, Jasmine said. Then what is it? I asked. She took a shaky breath. It is me realizing I lost something real, she said, and wanted to fix it. Fix it how? I asked. By going back to monogamy, she said quickly. Would that actually make you happy? I asked. She opened her mouth to answer, then stopped. The silence stretched between us. I do not know, Jasmine admitted finally. Maybe if we really worked on it in therapy, maybe if I learned to reframe things. That is not a foundation for a marriage, I said quietly. That is settling. That is you trying to make yourself fit into a structure that does not feel right anymore. I do not want to be someone's compromise. Jasmine's tears spilled over again. Why are you being so stubborn? She asked. Because I want to be with someone who genuinely wants the same kind of relationship I do, I said. Not someone who is trying monogamy on like a pair of shoes to see if it fits. She put her face in her hands for a moment, breathing unevenly. I do not know what I want anymore, she said. I know, I replied, and that is okay. You are allowed to be unsure, but you cannot expect me to pause my life while you decide. She looked up, eyes searching my face for something that was not there anymore. So we are really done, Jasmine said. Just like that. Yes, I said. We are really done. She stood up, picked up her purse, and hesitated for just a moment as if waiting for me to change my mind. When I did not, she turned and walked out. I stayed seated, finished my coffee, and watched people move in and out of the shop. Couples laughing, parents with strollers, students hunched over laptops. I felt strangely calm, like my heart had finally caught up with what my brain already knew. Later that night, my phone lit up with a text from Angela. You made my daughter cry. I hope you're happy with yourself. I stared at it for a few seconds, then set the phone face down and did not reply. About a week later, Jasmine sent a long email outlining how she had been reflecting, journaling, talking to her therapist, and reading more nuanced perspectives. She wrote that she believed monogamy could work for her if we committed to communication and growth together, and that maybe polyamory was something she could explore in other ways that did not involve romantic relationships. I read her email twice. Then I clicked reply and began to type. Jasmine, I wrote, I appreciate you reaching out and being honest about what you have been thinking. I've been thinking about everything a lot too. The way this ended, with you saying you could not be monogamous anymore and that you needed polyamory to be happy, is not something I can pretend did not happen. Even if you feel differently now, I know I would always wonder if you were settling or if 6 months or a year from now, you would want to open things again. I cannot build a marriage on that kind of uncertainty. I truly wish you well and hope you find the kind of relationships that fit who you are. But I need to move forward with my life. I hit send. Her reply came later that night. You are giving up on us, she wrote. I typed one final response. You gave up on us when you issued that ultimatum. I am just accepting what you decided. After that, there were no more messages between us. 3 months have passed since Jasmine first announced that she was polyamorous in our living room. I'm doing all right. Not wonderful, not miserable, just steadily okay. The apartment feels less empty now. I moved the couch to a different wall, bought a new piece of art for the space above the dining table, and replaced the throw pillows Jasmine picked with ones I chose myself. I started inviting friends over again for game nights and Sunday dinners instead of sitting alone in front of the television. I've gone on a few dates, one with a nurse I met at a friend's birthday party, another with a graphic designer Corey introduced me to. Nothing serious yet, but it has felt good to talk to women who are clear about wanting monogamy, who do not treat exclusivity like an outdated limitation, but as a preference that fits them. One evening, Corey and I were sitting on my balcony, watching the lights of the city and drinking sparkling water. Do you regret not trying polyamory for her? He asked. I thought about the question for a long moment, listening to the faint sounds of traffic and a distant siren. No, I said finally. I regret not seeing the signs sooner that we wanted different things. I regret not asking more questions when she started talking about those TikTok educators all the time. But I do not regret being honest about what I need. Corey nodded. I get that, he said. You were real with her and with yourself. That is all you can do. A few days later, a mutual friend mentioned in passing that Jasmine was still dating around, still calling herself polyamorous, still posting long captions about abolishing traditional relationship structures. I felt no anger, no jealousy, just a distant, quiet hope that she would eventually find whatever she was looking for. The wedding deposits still sting when I look at my credit card statements. $2,000 down the drain after all the partial refunds shook out. Sometimes I picture the venue we had chosen, a renovated brick building with string lights in the courtyard, and wonder what our wedding would have looked like there. Then I imagine waking up 6 months into the marriage, Jasmine sitting on the edge of our bed telling me she had met someone she wanted to date, and I know I made the right decision. Someone left a comment on one of my social media posts recently asking if I am against polyamory now. I thought about it for a bit before responding. I'm not against it. I'm against being pressured into a relationship structure that does not work for me. If polyamory genuinely works for other people, if it makes them feel more whole and more honest, genuinely good for them, it does not work for me. That is allowed. I am still processing everything. 3 years is a long time to share a life with someone and then walk away, even when walking away is the healthiest choice available. There are days when I miss Jasmine sharply, a song we used to dance that comes on in the grocery store, or I pass a restaurant where we celebrated an anniversary, and the grief catches me off guard. There are other days when I feel light, almost grateful, that things ended before vows were spoken and legal documents were signed. Healing is not a straight line. Recently, Jasmine texted me again. Just hope you're doing well, she wrote. I stared at the message for a long moment, feeling the familiar pull of the past. Then I locked my phone and slid it onto the table without replying. There was nothing left to say. I turned back to the pot simmering on the stove, stirred the sauce, and kept moving forward, one day at a time. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.